dilated. Yeah. Worldwide. Gracie Veterano, old family.
Welcome to the 8th episode of the MMA Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have a lot to talk about tonight. UFC 149 was last Saturday. A little bit of a snoozer, even admittedly by Dana White, but lots to talk about as far as the aftermath of that. Barao and Faber squaring off for the interim bantamweight title. We had a lot of news come out this week, as I feel like it's been every week with our podcast. Belfort Belcher announced today for 153, with a whole bunch of other news I would get to if this song was long enough, but I don't think it is. Oh yeah, and we have Eddie Bravo on in an hour and a half. What?
We did it, mama. We did it. We did it for the love of the game. We did it, mama. We did it. I did it for. Yes, yes, yes. We did it, mama. We did it. The game will never be the same. We did it, mama. We did it. I did it for.
And yeah, we are very, very excited. We have Eddie Bravo, both the singer you just heard in that chorus just now, founder of 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, really well known around the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA community. We're going to have him on in an hour and a half, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. Very excited for that. So huge thanks to Eddie Bravo, both, like we've said before, for letting us use his song for our intro and for coming on tonight. Big thanks to our two partners, MMAmental.com. Definitely check them out. Like I say every week, Ray and Jay do an amazing job with that podcast. They put out articles. Visit MMA Mental. Check their podcast. They have a lot of cool guests on as well. MMA Playground, put in your picks, get active on the forum, and obviously we are a live show, so we encourage our callers and our listeners to be active. Tweet us at the MMA Podcast, or you can just call in. We do this show live just so people can call in and interact with us. Our phone number is 646-378-1046. So that's 646-378-1046. And visit themmmapodcast.com. So I'm done with my 3-minute rant on thanks and where to go visit and all that jazz. How you doing, Chris?
I got chills. They're multiplying.
I do too, man. Both of us are big MMA fans, followers of the Rogan podcast, and have definitely been a little nervous interviewing some other big guys in MMA, like Lieben, like Ian McCall, but Eddie Bravo, truly one of our favorite figures in MMA, and we are excited as hell to have him on.
I think being a little nervous is awesome. When you get too complacent, that's when it gets boring. If you got the jitters and you're talking to someone, it'll go away, but I think it translates well to a good talk and a good interview. And, I'm doing great today. It's been a great day. I'm off of work. Looking forward to talking to Eddie and breaking shit down. How are you doing?
You had a relaxing day then? You had a nice,
I did. Did nothing.
Day. You slept in and did nothing.
Slept in, went to the store, came home, vacuumed my carpet. It was great.
Sounds like a very, very non-stressful day. I had one of the more tiring days of, I would say, my entire life. Last night, well, I should preface it with, I knew this morning I had to wake up at 7:30 for a long time. I was helping a friend move out, and I told him, because he's helping me move out next Monday, and he's the only person I have signed up to help me move all of my stuff. So I told him I would help him move 7:30. I actually have a little love seat that I was giving him to put in his new place. So he shows up at my door at 7:30. I can't really give him a fake excuse and sleep in. Not that I would have, even though I may have. But yeah, I woke up at 7:30. And the foolish part was, I would probably say going to bed at 5:30 last night.
Yeah, I was up seeing you on Facebook, like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah, and starting at 2, I was like, all right, man, I'll talk to you later. I need to get some sleep. I'm waking up at 7:30. You're like, all right, man. I get back on at 3. Hey, dude. Hey, I thought you were going to bed. Yeah, I was playing a little bit of FIFA. What's up? Not much. and that kind of repeated itself until 5 in the morning. I've never been really obsessive about a video game before. I'm not really into any of those typically serious games like World of Warcraft and all that, shooter games I don't really get into. I don't know what it is, but I have become completely obsessed with FIFA. I'll play 10, 15 games, just keep on playing, until it's 5:30 and my eyes are literally like starting to shut, and
I thought you were going to say bleed.
Eyes were starting to bleed. So yeah, I rarely drink energy drinks. I'm not really a fan. I'm a fan of drinking water. I don't really like pouring caffeine and taurine and all these random chemicals down my gullet. But yeah, I'll probably drink an energy drink once every couple months. If I'm totally wiped and I got to do something. I'm about to crack open energy drink number 3 of the day, which I don't know if I've had multiple energy drinks in one day before. I'm probably going to have a heart attack before this podcast is over.
You know what? You're my bro, and I'm looking out for you. So forget the energy drinks. Forget the 5-hour energy. What you need to do is go get some Tylenol PM. It's power medicine. It keeps you awake and alert.
Tylenol PM over here. I'll shake out a handful.
Crack a couple open. Let's get weird.
Crack a few open. Let's do it. Let's drink up some Tylenol power medicine. If any of you guys don't watch Workaholics, it was a reference to that amazing show. But yeah, we don't want to digress too much. A lot of stories in MMA. We started off with UFC 149 last weekend. You want to get into that?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, we'll start off with the prelims. Really only one notable prelim to talk about, and if you watch UFC 149, you'll immediately know the one that I'm talking about. Ryan Jimmo defeating Anthony Perosh via a knockout punch 7 seconds into the fight, ties the UFC record for the fastest finish, fastest knockout, and he breaks out a dirty robot at the end. That was sick.
You know what was crazy about that was the fight started. Jimmo walked up to Perosh. I think they touched gloves, and he threw one dirty right hand. Boom, he's out. One more punch for, good measure, and then it stopped. 7 seconds. That was a flawless fight for Ryan Jimmo, especially considering he came into the UFC with a lot of haters. A lot of people said that guy has boring fights. A lot of his fights have gone to decision, and nobody was really looking forward to him coming over. And then he says, you know what? Fuck that. I'm gonna put a stamp on it. And it looks like I've lost Jake.
Oh, I realized I muted myself there. Great pod. No, a 7-second knockout usually means a guy rushes across the octagon, throws a flurry of punches, and the fight gets ended that way. They touched gloves, and the fight was still over in 7 seconds. That was quite amazing.
Yeah, what a way to put a stamp on his entry into the UFC. I'd love to see what he has next. Perosh is no joke, a great grappler, but isn't really well known for his striking, so I'd have to put my money on Jimmo getting a more well-rounded fighter in his next fight.
Definitely. The thing that was really surprising to a lot of people watching this and a lot of people who are familiar with mixed martial arts, Ryan Jimmo coming into it was known as almost a boring fighter. 6 of his last 7 fights before UFC 149, all in Maximum Fighting Championship, MFC. He's fought over there the last couple of years, and 6 of those 7 fights went to decision. He won them all, but he came over and people were kind of expecting him to be a little bit, of a boring fighter, even though he was the MFC light heavyweight champion and defended his belt twice. People were not expecting him to come out and knock Anthony Perosh out in 7 seconds whatsoever.
Me included, man. Me included. I thought it was going to be a clinch fest. Jimmo isn't known for striking. He's not known for his grappling. He's just a well-rounded guy, and Perosh is a one-trick pony. That's not a bad thing. He's just really great at grappling. And what we saw was, a capitalization on a mistake by Ryan Jimmo. Is that a word? Is capitalization a real word? I don't know. Maybe I just made that up.
We will make it a real word tonight for the podcast. His last fight, Jimmo's last fight, was against Sokaju, and going into that fight, he had lost 8 fights by knockout, only 1 by decision. You've been knocked out so many times. If you're not gonna, or if you are gonna knock someone out, I mean, no offense to Sokaju, but it's going to be him. He's gotten knocked out a lot, and Jimmo went 25 minutes with him, couldn't finish the fight, and then he goes up against Anthony Perosh, a guy who had only been stopped a few times. I believe the last time he was stopped was to James Tehuna in 2009. So, a real durable fighter, and it was great to see Jimmo just run out there and knock him out. And it was even greater to see that robot. I'm a huge fan of the robot. Oh, that was amazing.
Dude, seeing him pull that off, and I was like, all right, he's got some moves. And, I like to see a back-and-forth fight most of the time. I like to see, guys rock each other and their scrambles and submission attempts. That's what makes the sport for me. But that one-punch KO is so boss sometimes too, because you're not expecting it. You see him throw a punch, like, all right, boom, he's out. You're like, what? What the hell just happened? That was amazing.
That was a great fight, and Ryan Jimmo definitely has earned himself a lot of respect in the MMA, and exactly like you just said, should get a decent opponent next. I'm excited to see who the UFC pairs him up against.
I agree, man. How about Matt Riddle with that submission against Chris Clements?
Man, that was awesome. Matt Riddle in the first fight of the main card, which was the only finish of the main card. Every other fight went to a decision. Riddle put on a show and finished Chris Clements with an arm triangle choke the round 3 into the fight.
Yeah, man, I've always liked Riddle. He fought on The Ultimate Fighter Season 7, and he was just one of those guys that, he's got a great personality. I mean, he's always smiling and cracking jokes. Kind of, I'm the same way, just try and have some fun. And he basically was a wrestler in high school, didn't have any fight experience, self-trained, and then had a amateur fight and got into the UFC. And his entire professional record is in the UFC. You have to respect that, man. I mean, he comes in there with little to no experience, puts on a show every single time. Matt Riddle is never in a boring fight. He's dominated some real good guys like, was it Greg Soto? I think he beat that guy. And then he definitely beat DeMarcus Johnson by a TKO, and DeMarcus is no joke. So Matt Riddle always slings leather. Sometimes he goes to a decision, but to see that kind of a finish where it's a back-and-forth fight, Clements is throwing some amazing taekwondo strikes, They're rocking each other, taking each other down, and then in the third round, they're both standing, and he locks up, spins the opposite direction, locks in the choke. That was something of beauty, and Joe Rogan really went nuts for it, and I don't blame him. That was amazing.
That was really amazing. Actually, I'd like to ask Eddie to break it down for us, because that was a excellent transition to the arm triangle. He trapped Clements' head perfectly and got a standing arm triangle choke, brought him to the mat, and Clements tapped out with two minutes to go, which I love seeing guys who, Riddle would have obviously won a decision no matter how the third round went. He dominated the first and second round. So with a conservative game plan, with a Jackson-type game plan, he would be going into that third round to win a decision. He would not be trying to finish the fight. And you got to love a guy who's easily going to win a decision and still works hard to get that finish with 2 minutes to go in the fight.
As much as I agree with you with the Jackson thing, let's be honest, he still has some killers under his belt. He had Gillard for a while. He's still got Condit. He's got Cerrone. It's not like Greg comes up with boring game plans. It's for certain fighters against other fighters. He comes up with those game plans. So I hope one day to have Greg on here and break it down. So I agree with you, but he went for that in the third round. And it was really nice to see a guy do some really top-level technique. I mean, if you're wrapping your arms around a guy who's standing, and then you take him down and then submit him maybe 20 seconds later, that is really some top-level stuff. And for him to finish it and then go out and call out the top-tier welterweights afterwards, I think I kind of agree, man. I'd like to see him get a solid test.
Yeah, he actually called out one fighter in particular who I'll get to in 1 second, but to address the Jackson thing, I definitely think Greg is one of the best trainers in the sport, and I don't really mean it too negatively by it, but Jackson was getting heat before the Clay Guida Gray Maynard fight, and I think after the Clay Guida Gray Maynard fight, that took a lot of work for me. I think after that, you can't really argue that Jackson isn't making a lot of these fighters fight boring. I mean, he was getting flack before that, and I mean, Jesus, that was the second to worst pathetic performance I've ever seen put on by a fighter. Second to Caleb Starnes and his Running Man.
I will never, ever watch that fight again. Good call, man. Greg, you know, he is Yoda of, like, game planning. Like, he has some great game plans. We've seen some of the best game plans ever where...
Condit Diaz was brilliant.
Right, that and George versus Thiago Alves at UFC 100, another brilliant game plan. He outstruck Thiago, and he took him down, like, 10 or 11 times.
Hardy St. Pierre, Fitch St. Pierre. If you're fighting out of Jackson's, chances are you're going to be going in with a great game plan, but I don't know if that's necessarily helping or hurting the sport. Luckily, we had that ABC rules change, which I think took a part of defense out of the scoring, so fighters are going to be expected to mix it up more, whether it's on the ground or striking. They didn't really address the problem of laying and praying like a lot of people call it, but they did definitely address this whole effective defense argument, and I think Guida kind of brought it to a head, and I'm very glad to see the rule changes that were put forth.
That's amazing, man. I'm glad they're doing that. It's been a long time coming, probably 2 years. Everyone that I know that's into MMA has been talking about they need to change these rules. They need to get better judges. I mean, I'm sorry. If you're a boxing judge and you're not primarily an MMA judge, you're not going to know what's going on the ground, and you're going to score improperly. And you're taking guys, you know,
well-being.
You're taking their well-being and their lives into their hands, and that's not what we should be doing. We should... You know, the UFC and the athletic commissions should hold a summit for themselves and come up with better rules. The problem is that those commissions don't want to admit that they're wrong. And Joe Rogan brings it up all the time, and I can't phrase it any other way. It's completely true. They need to figure out a better system, and the only way to do that is to work on it, and the UFC wants to do it. The athletic commissions don't. So we'll see what happens from here. That was a good step in the right direction with the ABC rule change.
Definitely, and one of the things that really makes me the most exciting about it seems like these athletic commissions are so slow to change and so prehistoric with some of their rules, and I'm glad to just see things starting to turn. I like seeing the gear starting to go into motion, because I feel like a lot of these state athletic commissions are just almost, you know, completely apathetic as far as not caring about, oh yeah, judging's a big problem, yeah, we'll address that some other time. Whether it's judging, whether it's rules, a lot of these rules like 12-2, 6 elbows, no one thinks that that's a legitimate rule in MMA, and everybody thinks John Jones should have that win against Matt Hamill, but guess what? They haven't even touched that rule yet. Why? Because they're completely apathetic about it.
I agree, man. And you know what? Just to kind of put a cherry on top of the sundae, there's a great saying out there. I may be butchering it, but a revolution starts with a spark. You can't ignite a bunch of explosives with no fire. And when you start that fire, it starts with that small little spark, and then it just keeps on going and blows up. So I agree with you, man. We're going to see some changes here pretty soon.
I also have another quote that kind of ties into it. Cowboy butts drive me nuts.
I bet they do, man. I mean, tight jeans. Yeah.
Those leather chaps, you can't beat it. But no, I was talking about Matt Riddle earlier calling out a certain fighter. It was a really, really hilarious moment of the UFC 149 post-fight press conference, probably the funniest moment of it. A reporter asks Riddle if he had anyone to call out, and if he had any problem with the British fans. I forget exactly how he worded it, and Riddle was kind of lightly, talking about Britain and the fans over there, and then Dana White, just as a complete joke, says, "Man, I'm his therapist over here, right?" And then Riddle actually starts like a pretty offensive rant about British fans, calling them buttertooth Brits, and saying he wants to fight Hardy next. You can't really blame the guy, because he said his whole disdain for the UFC British fans came from when he was in Birmingham or Manchester, I forget which of the two, and a fan spit at him and said that spitball was unfortunate it was unfortunate enough to go into his mouth, which is pretty disgusting. And of course, the very end of it, he wrapped it up saying he was only joking and liked most British fans. Just that was a really bad experience. But Jesus Christ, what a crazy story, and what a hilarious moment, him calling out the, quote, buttertooth Brits and wanting to fight Dan Hardy, a fight that Hardy has since declined, which I don't know if you really have the right to turn down fights when you're 1-4 in your last 5 UFC fights.
I agree, man, but Dan Hardy just wants to get back in there, and he has something to prove. He was, a top contender. He fought for the belt against GSP, did well, lost a couple fights. I don't blame him for turning down the fight, because that is a bad matchup for Dan Hardy. I mean, Riddle pushes the pace, and Dan is definitely well known for his cardio, but I don't think he could necessarily handle the game of Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle likes to mix in takedowns with striking, and he does a lot of unorthodox stuff. So I don't blame Dan Hardy, and it's just really nice to see Riddle making everyone laugh. I mean, normally these things are really just ass tight. Nobody's making jokes. It's like, oh, who do you want to fight next? It's good to see Riddle go out there and make him laugh and call out a top-level fighter. I'd love to see him against a guy like Mike Pierce, or maybe Dong-Yeon Kim, something like that. Definitely.
And as much as I joke about Hardy's record, I also do think he's a great fighter. His last fight, I believe, was in May at UFC 146. He got a first-round knockout on Dwayne Ludwig. Excellent knockout of the night, I think, too.
Great one.
And his 4 losses before that are all pretty, I don't want to say reasonable. I don't know if that is the right word, but of those 4 losses, 2 were to the number 1 and number 2 welterweights at the moment, George St. Pierre and Carlos Condit. 1 was a decision loss to a natural light heavyweight, Anthony Johnson, and the other was a loss to Chris Lytle, who has an absolutely iron chin, and Hardy goes for the knockout. And as much as you want to try and knock out Chris Lytle, that guy is a beast. It was the last fight of his career, and he went out with a win, and that was
one mistake, man. Hardy dove in for a takedown at the end of the fight. If he hadn't have done that, he could have won a split decision. Probably not, but he could have.
He got guillotined with less than a minute left in the fight.
He made one tiny little mistake, man, and he's allowed to do that. He's a professional, a cage fighter, full-time trainer. So we'll see what happens. He turned down the fight. Riddle's calling out top names. Who do you see Riddle getting next?
Honestly, I mean, he needs to face up against a guy with a win. I'd like to see him fight a guy like Hardy. I know Hardy's obviously more of a well-known welterweight, and Hardy wants to fight those well-known guys, which is kind of, it's a little believable, just knowing that he is a former title contender. Fought against George St. Pierre, I think that was in 2010.
It was UFC 111.
He was fighting for the title just recently. Thinking about who he's going to fight next, Hardy he's got a fight scheduled for end of September against Amir Sadallah, which obviously is a more well-known guy. Maybe see Riddle fight the winner of that, even if it is Hardy. If it's not Hardy, I'm just thinking of guys around there. You have guys.
I'm thinking of Matt Brown, dude. I'm thinking Matt Brown. Matt Brown is on a 3-fight win streak. Riddle is on a 2-fight win streak. I'd like to see that fight.
What about Dan Miller?
Dan Miller would be great too. He had that finish against Funch. Miller or Brown, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'd like to see either of those fights, and winner obviously would probably be vaulted up into the top 20 of the UFC welterweight division, which I think the welterweight division in the UFC is the strongest division out there.
Oh, absolutely, man. The only thing that comes close is lightweight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say light heavyweight, but I stopped myself. I was like, lightweight.
Maybe 205 if John Jones didn't exist. If John Jones didn't exist and the 205 belt was still being passed around like every few months, that would definitely be pretty interesting, but it's hard to say 205 is that strong when the champion is beat numbers 2 through 6 convincingly.
How about James Head defeating Brian Ebersol, man? I didn't think Ebersol would lose that fight. I called it on the last podcast. He looked tiny. He looked tiny out there. Joe was talking about how he's lost a lot of muscle mass. He's not a buff guy to begin with, but he looked super skinny for that fight. Obviously, he's gunning for a drop to lightweight, the 155-pound division, and James Head is a massive welterweight who cut down from 185. So that was pretty crazy to watch that fight. Otherwise, not much to be said about it. Not a great fight.
Yeah, it was a split decision, actually, which surprised me. Personally, I scored it 30-27 for James Head. Head, was able to clinch up standing and control the clinch through more effective strikes standing up, and on the ground for the most part dominated it. Ebersol did have a couple moments in the second round, but I don't think anyone could argue the first or the third round for Brian Ebersol. Brian Ebersol was a giant favorite. I think he was the biggest favorite on the card. He was on this massive 11-fight winning streak, and James Head didn't even have 11 fights on his record before this Brian Ebersol fight. Coincidentally, it was his 11th fight. But yeah, that was a great performance put on by James Head. No one expected him to win the fight. He lost by submission to Nick Ring, who fought in the prelims of this card actually, and yeah, put on a great performance.
Yeah, speaking of bad judging, I mean it's not really that bad, but if you look at the judges' scorecards, it's 29-28 across the board, and I guess that's what you get for having uninformed judges watching a boring fight.
One of them scored at 29-28 Ebersol. It was a split decision.
Right. I'm just saying across the board it's 29-28.
Oh, yeah.
They had it close, whereas Head was handling Ebersol for most of that fight.
Definitely.
I don't get it.
I don't either. And yeah, this definitely vaults James Head up the welterweight division. A lot of people thought Brian Ebersol was on this really long win streak. Obviously a great fighter, winning 11 in a row. You can't be too shabby. But yeah.
By the way, before we move on, I got James Head mixed up with Jake Hecht. When I called the fight and you said James Head, I thought of Jake Hecht, who lost to TJ Waldberger by armbar.
Nice.
I got that completely fucked up. I'm sorry, James. Similar names.
James, don't worry about it. I don't think he's too stressed out about it. And looking at our numbers, even though we do have a lot more listeners than I expected we would through our first 8 podcasts, chances are still, if I divide that number by the U.S. population, chances are probably 1 in 2 million that he listened. Maybe 1 in 20,000. I don't know.
There's no way that a professional fighter is going to skip banging hot tail and training.
Banging hot tail?
to listening to this dumb podcast.
Yeah, I'm surprised that so many notable MMA guys have taken time out of their day to listen to this dumb podcast, as you so lovingly referred it to.
I'm just kidding. That's because we actually have conversations with them, man. We talk to them. We have a good time. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And speaking of that, if you're listening live, we definitely encourage callers to call in 646-378-1046. We're about a half an hour into the podcast now, so we plan on having Eddie Bravo on in about 1 hour. Very excited for that interview. But yeah, we're talking shit about UFC 149, so call in. We'd love to hear your opinion on it. And if you don't want to call in for any reason, if you have a sore throat, if you're hurt, if you're scared, whatever.
We have a touch tone system. You can actually use the buttons to form sentences. It's
very
incredible.
True. It is absolutely incredible. Or you can tweet us. And we are at the MMA Podcast, all one word there, no backslashes or underscores or any of that shit. So tweet us. We're really, really excited. Our Twitter followings actually kind of exploded a lot with Eddie Bravo tweeting our message earlier today about having him on the podcast. So if any fans of Eddie Bravo are tuning in, thanks a lot for following us and tuning in and putting up with this half hour of bullshit so far.
Not at all, man. We're having a good time breaking it down.
Definitely, yeah. I try and find a line between the uber professionalism of ESPN, which kind of gets annoying after a while, and a fun hangout, bullshitting with friends and whatnot, and that's why I want to do it live. If you want to call in and join the conversation, we air every Wednesday, 8 to 10 p.m. if you're listening to an archived version. So if it's Wednesday, you're hanging out 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific, and you're kicking it, just, tune in. We have a live link up on the MMApodcast.com every Wednesday, and you can just click that, tune in live, call in, tweet us, and we love talking to our listeners.
We need to get a soundbite of me just going, every Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m., come and join us for the most exciting, incredible MMA ever. Join our partners at MMA Mental, the MMA Playground, and thank you to Eddie Bravo for calling in and having a good time.
And giving us a song for our intro. Jesus Christ, Eddie has been more than helpful. About 2 weeks before our first episode, I was picking out a song for the intro to the podcast. I really liked that Jiu-Jitsu song by Smoke Serpent, which is a group he's in. And, yeah, I tweeted him out of nowhere, and he tweeted back, like, yeah, you can definitely use it. So, huge shout-out to our listeners, Eddie Bravo and all that. So, nobody has called in, even though I just desperately asked all of you. And I know there are some of you listening.
There's someone out there. Come on.
There is at least one person. There is between 1 and 100 people listening now. I can guarantee.
Let's move on. We're begging.
We are begging. Okay. Anyway, UFC 149. Yeah, we just talked about that Head Ebersol fight, which was a little bit of a snoozer. It wasn't too much of a snoozer. I think the biggest snoozer of the card, the fight that Dana White actually specifically called out during the post-fight press conference, was Chick Congo versus Sean Jordan. There's a lot of grappling against the fence. Chick Congo won a unanimous decision, 30-28 and 30-27 from the other two judges. Oh God, Jesus Christ, this was hard to watch.
Well, let's look at the tail of the tape here. You got Sean Jordan, one fight in the UFC, trained by Greg Jackson. Then you have Chick Congo. His fight at 137 against Matt Mitrione. He fought Mitrione on the feet for 2 rounds. He won the first round, lost the second, came back in the third, and took Mitrione down and beat the fuck out of him against the cage. Now, that was uncharacteristic for Chick Congo. So then you go into Chick's next fight. He's fighting Mark Hunt at UFC 144 and gets blasted, so he's down. So let's look back. If say I had a boring fight and then I got knocked out. I have to win this fight. I don't blame him for what he did. What I do blame is Sean Jordan. I mean, I called that guy to win by whatever he wants, by a finish, and he failed to deliver. He gassed out at the end of the first round, and that was just a really bad fight. And hopefully these guys can come back. I think this fight does worse for Cheick Kongo than it does for Sean Jordan, because Cheick, obviously this fight made him a gatekeeper. If you can't finish Sean Jordan in style, a guy with one fight in the UFC, then you're probably just going to be a gatekeeper, and Sean Jordan probably isn't going to lose too many fans over this fight. He'll come back in this next fight and dominate. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I don't think this fight necessarily moves him up the rankings as much as he wanted to be moved up the rankings. Couldn't put enough together to fight Sean Jordan. Looked like he was stalling a tremendous amount during the fight. He would have it to where Jordan's back's against the cage, and he'll throw a knee every 5 seconds, and then throw a weak elbow just to almost make it look like he's actively fighting, so the referee won't separate him. A lot of stalling in this fight. And like I said, I like how Dana White is no nonsense, and he isn't one of these sports commissioners who's going to come out and bullshit it and put a cherry on top of everything and a sugar coating on the story. He came out and said, yeah, the Cheick Kongo Sean Jordan fight was boring. It isn't the ultimate cage grappling championship. It's the ultimate fighting championship, and these guys didn't come out and fight.
Yeah, man, it was a shitty fight. You said that Cheick Kongo was stalling. I actually don't agree. I know that Cheick Kongo is an alpha male. That guy just loves to dominate people. I've seen plenty of videos of him walking up to reporters and pretend choking them. I think this guy wanted to show Sean Jordan that he's stronger than him, and that right there was his problem. Instead of pushing off the cage and hitting him with the shots, he decided to clinch up and show Sean, who is a really good athlete who comes from a football background, that I'm stronger than you. And that was his biggest mistake. He should have finished the fight.
Yeah, and he did not moved up the heavyweight rankings just a little bit, but I don't think moved up really a significant amount. And the UFC heavyweight division is a little bit clogged up at the moment, to be honest. You have Roy Nelson and Shane Carwin scheduled as the next coaches in the Ultimate Fighter House. You have a lot of guys outside of the UFC. You have Josh Barnett and Daniel Cormier still in Strikeforce. You've got guys like Ben Rothwell, Travis Brown, Stipe Miocic, and Stefan Struve all tied up. Broughton, Mitrio, Overeem. Yeah, he's tied up until next year. We posted up a story recently about how he's confident he's going to get his suspension shortened, which seems a little ludicrous to me because I never hear about athletic commissions shortening people's suspensions for any reason. But hey, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man, it's a log jam, but we just dealt with that recently at lightweight. You had Gillard, Cerrone, Pettis, Guida, Maynard.
We still have it to some extent.
It's working itself out, man. It takes time.
I'm hoping to see Nate pick up another fight between now and then, because he's kind of just been stagnant the last few months since beating Jim Miller. But yeah, I would love to see maybe a Diaz-Maynard fight. Pettis obviously doesn't have a scheduled fight yet against anybody. That would be really good to see that logjam at lightweight clear up. Yeah, so Jordan, Kongo, snooze fest, sadness. We also had Tim Boetsch versus Hector Lombard. Hector Lombard was coming into the UFC from Bellator, was arguably the most exciting fighter in Bellator, finishing everyone via just some sort of brutal knockout, and didn't really come out with that fierceness and that aggression we saw out of in Bellator, and Boetsch was able to keep his distance, used a lot of leg kicks, a lot of front kicks actually, and Lombard seemed almost confused, trying to find holes, trying to find punches. Really didn't have a lot of footwork. A lot of times would just stand in the same spot and not move his feet and be totally in one zone and just kind of move his torso around and look for punches. Really, really awkward fighting style. I don't know if he was nervous. I don't know if Boach was just fighting and moving around that well, or if he was that much of a up in competition from his Bellator foes. But Lombard looked a little bit confused out there, but I actually still gave Lombard the fight. I scored at 29-28 Lombard, but Tim Boach actually beat him by split decision. One judge agreed with me, had it 29-28 Lombard. The other two had it 29-28 for the winner, Tim Boach.
Yeah, man. Not too much to say about this fight. It was a real snoozer. I was watching it and looking away and doing other things. It was two guys who were fighting not to lose instead of to win, and that's never a good thing. Tim Boach is a wrestler who has improved his finishing capability. He's a Jeet Kune Do specialist, and he came into this fight looking to I don't know, kick Hector so hard that he would stop moving, but Hector isn't a very mobile guy. You brought up the fact that he was standing there. If you look at all his fights in Bellator, he doesn't rush in on people unless they're hurt. He stands there, and he has this weird boxing style where he holds both arms up, and he tries to, like, hand trap. And it turned out to be a shitty fight. I'm definitely with you on Lombard winning. It was a really close fight. I think Tim Boach did more MMA-wise, but I think Hector Lombard did more damage when you look at Tim Boach's face. So regardless, Tim wins, Hector goes down in the rankings, and yeah, that's the way it is. Yeah, looks like we've lost Jake.
Oh,
again.
Wow.
2 for 2.
Once again, yeah, I'm actually more like 2 for like maybe 20 as far as muting myself and popping back on, but a lot of times if you go on a rant, I'll just forget I muted my microphone. I'll start going on a rant about something, and then I hear Chris go, "Oh, and we lost." I'm like, oh, god damn it, and I'll pop it back on. But no, I totally agree with you. And what's pretty intriguing is before Mark Munoz's fight against Chris Weidman, Munoz was calling out Hector Lombard and saying he was a can crusher. And before Lombard's fight against Tim Boach, he said he wanted to fight Mark Munoz. And you saw Munoz lose, and you were like, oh, well, if Lombard wins this, he obviously isn't going to get paired against Munoz. Lombard was a heavy favorite here. A lot of underdogs winning. Boach was an underdog. Head was an underdog. Jimmo was an underdog, all winning their fights. But Lombard lost, Munoz lost, and it only makes sense from here to pair the two up against each other.
It's ironic that Mark Munoz is calling someone else a can crusher, right? Am I right? That guy, Lieben, was his biggest win. He beat Maya and Dalloway and Simpson. I mean, come on.
I was going to say he has his win against Lieben, which putting an impressive performance against Lieben means to me that you're a pretty elite middleweight, because you know that dude does not get rocked unless you're a really good striker. So I don't know if that was a streak of luck or what exactly happened there, but he didn't look very impressive against Weidman. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Lombard Munoz because there's a lot of bad blood in the air for that one.
Yeah, man, that's going to be great.
And Tim Boach, who do you have him fighting next in the middleweight division?
Okay, let's look at the facts. Belcher is fighting. Who is he fighting? He's fighting Belfort. Belcher versus Belfort, and then you got Bisping versus Stan. That doesn't leave really anyone in the top 10. Paul Harris just pulled out of a fight, so we can't match him up with that. So I have no idea. I
would say maybe if he becomes a little more active, I'd like to see Boach against Rich Franklin. Franklin's really the only free middleweight at the moment. You know, you said looking at the top middleweights, Sonnen's obviously not going to fight a guy who just won. Weidman's probably going to fight Anderson next. Rockhold's in Strikeforce. Vitor Belfort and Belcher are tied up against each other. Lombard just lost. He'll probably fight Boach. Stan and Bisping. There are a few guys in Strikeforce. Jacare Ray, Kennedy, Roger Gracie. Yushin Okami's tied up for UFC 150. I mean, there's really no one available in the middleweight division right now except for Rich Franklin.
I agree, and that will not happen for one reason.
Because he only fights once a year, and
that's not
Boach
why.
want to fight again this year, and
that's not why.
One year quota. Sorry.
They both trained out of Matt Hume MMA. They both trained out there. They're training partners. I don't see that fight happening. I mean, they are professionals to the point where they would fight each other, but I don't see the UFC and Joe Silva actually making that fight happen. We're probably going to see Kung Lee versus Rich Franklin because that fight was supposed to happen.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I see Macau.
Yeah, I would not bet on Boach getting those guys. I think at this point he just has to sit it out, kind of like how Jim Miller is doing right now in the lightweight division. He has to wait for Frankie and Bendo to fight, then Nate gets the next shot at the title. So he's kind of in that same position.
Yeah, and the next top middleweight fight, I guess, is Yushin Okami fighting whoever August 11th. Maybe a little soon to throw Boach in. Definitely a little soon to throw Boach into that fight. So maybe the winner of Okami versus whoever he fights, he'll probably fight a lower-ranked replacement. So he'll probably win at UFC 150. Maybe see him matched up against him. The next one,
a rematch? You want to see them rematch each other?
That was one of the best fights of 2012. Why not? Why not?
I'm on board. I just thought it was a little too soon.
Or Brian Stan and Michael Bisping fight September 22nd. A lot of people are saying if Bisping wins, he should be given a title shot, but who knows? A lot of people don't have Bisping in their top 10 middleweights, so we'll see. Well,
I mean, who would you like to see Anderson face next? Do you want to see Weidman face him? Do you want to see Rockhold? Do you want to see the winner of Stan Bisping or the winner of Belcher Belfort?
Weidman makes the most sense now. I don't know if Rockhold can come over. Great, that would also be a good fight. I guess I would pair Weidman up against the winner of Stan Bisping for the next title shot. But as far as looking at it now, Weidman makes the most sense.
By the way, I just got a tweet from Ronald Flores in Lakewood, California. He says that Okami is facing Buddy Roberts.
Oh, is he? That's already been made. Yeah. Earlier today, Paul Harris pulled out of his fight against Yushin Okami due to a torn up knee, which I don't want to say he's a bad person and deserves it or anything. But karma, maybe, from all the knees that he's torn up in his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu career, even though I'm, sure in those Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments, those fighters probably could have tapped out a little earlier and avoided leg damage. But it's kind of funny hearing the guy who's probably done the most leg damage that I've ever heard of in Jiu-Jitsu and UFC has a torn ACL. It's like, ooh, there's something karma related. There's something karma related in that. But at the same exact time, it's hard to hate on a guy like Huzumir Paul Harris.
I love him in the
seems like a very nice guy. One of these guys, almost like Vanderlei, who is puts on a smile and is a really great person outside the cage, but gets in the cage, turns a switch, and turns into an absolute fucking maniac.
Yeah, man, it's like Chuck Liddell. The guy knocked out people for 7 years straight and then ended his career on a bunch of knockouts. I think it is karma. I think Paul Harris, if he had been tapping people out and not breaking their limbs, he probably could have gotten away with it, but I think it's coming back to him, man. He twisted up, who was it? Some Czech or Polish guy back at UFC 111. I can't remember his name. He twisted his knee up so hard that the guy was screaming and tapping, and he didn't let go until the ref got there, and the ref had to actually pull him off. It was literally 6 or 7 seconds of Paul Juarez torquing on this poor guy's knee.
And that is where the karma comes in.
Yeah, man, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, I actually hadn't heard of that story. I thought I had, heard something mentioned about a tap and the ref didn't break him up and he kept on cranking. I didn't read the story, and I kind of figured, maybe the ref didn't get in there fluidly enough to break him up. But if that happened, then yeah, karma all the way.
Agreed, man. Agreed. So how about Uriah Faber falling from grace?
Uriah Faber, I don't know if it's necessarily a fall from grace because he was the underdog in this fight, but it's a really stark realization when your last 5 title fights, which you've gotten 5 title fights in the last 4 years, 2 against Mike Brown in the WEC, 1 against Jose Aldo in the WEC, and 2 in the UFC at the bantamweight division against Dominic Cruz and now Renan Barão, and 0-5 in those fights. The last 4 coming by decision to Brown, Aldo, Cruz, and Barão, all unanimously, and I think we all can agree that he didn't win any of those fights, which unfortunately, each one of those had a different reason. Brown, he probably lost that decision because he had 2 broken hands. Aldo had a genius game plan of battering his legs and taking away his mobility, which you looked at pictures on his Twitter of Faber's legs the day after that fight, and it looked like he was walking around on 2 big, fat, red little pool floaty noodle things. I mean, they just looked like puffy and they did not look like human legs. Cruz, outpaced him with really dominant footwork, and in the Renan Barão fight, about halfway through the first round, Barão landed a knee that broke Faber's rib, and a broken rib can lead to all sorts of sadness. Just watch Silvason in 1.
Yeah, man, going into this fight, I had an argument with a buddy of mine. He said that Barão would win, and I was like, you know what, man, I don't think so. Let's look at Barão's last 5 fights. He had 2 submission wins in the WEC by submission. He gets to the UFC, can't finish Cole Escobedo, who Mizugaki finished in a round and a half. Then he goes up against Brad Pickett and finishes him in impressive fashion. But Brad Pickett was fighting in front of his hometown crowd, and he fought recklessly. And that's not like Brad Pickett. That guy is a well-rounded mixed martial artist. Then he beats Scott Jorgensen in a very boring fight. And then I look at Faber, and I look at his track record, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what, that guy has great MMA. I mean, he punches hard. He beat the fuck out of Brian Bowles. He dominated Eddie Wineland. He lost to Cruz, but that was off the points. So I'm thinking to myself, Faber's going to win this. After the fight, it looked like Renan Barão was just 1 step ahead of Uriah Faber, and that's not taking anything away from Uriah. That guy is still amazing. So I think that Renan just had the style and the game plan to beat Uriah, and that showed on fight night. And I don't think Uriah's done.
I don't think he is either. I read a ridiculous article on I don't want to say if it's Bleacher Report or SB Nation. It's one of the 2, and the one it's not, I'm really horribly sorry to. But I read a horrible article talking about how now after this fight, Uriah Faber is obviously just a gatekeeper of the bantamweight division, and we'll never see him in a title fight again. It's too bad. Come on now. Uriah Faber is an absolutely amazing fighter, and other than fighting these top guys like Jose Aldo, Dominic Cruz, Renan Barão, he beats everybody. So saying that he'll never get a title shot again, he was one of the people who made the WEC great, and the WEC turned into a powerhouse while he was the featherweight champion over there. Really, I'm surprised that Barao was able to outpace him, and that was. I don't want to say it was a boring fight. You know, Dana even said if you were complaining about Barao Faber, you weren't a fan of MMA, and I would agree to a point. You know, I would maybe halfway agree with that because they both did mix it up. It was really weird seeing the fifth round of that and seeing Barao use this weird almost Hoist Gracie like distancing with Uriah Faber.
Yeah, it's just great to see these WBC guys coming to the UFC and have a lot on their shoulder, and they perform, man. I mean, not all of them. You got Shaw LaRousse and a couple other guys falling short, Enja Kawani, Roller, but there's guys like Cerrone and Ben Henderson and Brian Stan that came over and really did some work, and, it's good to see.
Definitely. And I think that pretty much puts a bow on Barao Faber. We'll probably see Barao take on Dominic Cruz next. Hopefully Cruz's knee can recover in time enough for Barao to not have to fight anyone else between now and then. But definitely, Barao Cruz will probably come up next. It'll be interesting to see who Faber gets put up next against at bantamweight.
I would love to see Faber versus Michael McDonald. That would be an awesome fight.
Definitely. I see Uriah Faber as a top 5 bantamweight still. A lot of really good bantamweights outside the division like Bibiano Fernandez and Eduardo Dantas. So, maybe pair him up against Michael McDonald. I'm thinking of guys in the bantamweight division who have lost recently, but I can't think of anyone that high up the thing.
Absolutely. If you look at guys that have lost that would deserve a fight with Faber, there's nobody out there. You have to put Faber up against guys on a win streak because he was right there. He just fought for the interim title. So Michael McDonald, 3 fights in the UFC. 2 decisions against Chris Carrizo and another guy, and then a finish against Miguel Torres. I like that fight because McDonald is the new breed. He's only 21 years old, and he's got some great skills, but I think his true test is Uriah Faber.
Yeah, that would be a great test. We haven't really seen Michael McDonald take. I'm thinking of his last few fights. I guess he fought Miguel Torres in his last fight, finished that in the first round.
Knocked him out.
Yep,
Yeah.
Finished that in the first round with punches. But other than that, his UFC career, I'm looking at now, has been made up of Edwin Figueroa, Chris Carrizo, and Alex Soto. So definitely has an impressive win against Miguel Torres. I'd like to see him fight another elite bantamweight, and that would definitely be a fun fight.
How about Uriah Faber versus Miguel Torres? That has been a dream fight of mine since the WEC days, back when Uriah was at 135 or 145 and Miguel was at 135. I would love to see that fight. They're both coming off losses, and it would be good to see Miguel actually come out there and put a stamp on Uriah Faber if he can do it.
It makes sense, yeah. We've heard fighters say on the podcast before that the UFC hates pairing up winners in their last fight against losers in their last fight, and that would obviously detract from a Faber-McDonald fight. But yeah, I would love seeing Faber-Torres. I originally actually got into mixed martial arts when I was a freshman in college, watching the WEC on Friday nights on Versus and watching this Uriah Faber guy just go through people. So yeah, it's pretty funny. I actually got into the WEC really before the UFC, and Torres and Faber at that time were just monsters going through people. I mean, Torres was mowing through name after name. He had beat Mizugaki, Valencia, Banuelos. Before that, dudes who were big on the scene then. Chase Beebe, Manny Tapia, guys like that, and it was really fun watching the WEC back then.
a lot of people are saying that Miguel Torres is done. He's had too many fights. He can't take a punch. But I do not agree with that. When he got knocked out by Bowles and McDonald, they were perfect punches. Those guys landed the perfect punch on his chin. Anyone is going to go out because they are hitting you right on your chin, and they both have knockout power. So I don't feel that Miguel is done. He's taken a lot of punches from, Nick Pace and Valencia, a lot of guys since then, and he's weathered the storm. So I think he just had bad defense in his boxing against those guys, and I think him versus Uriah would be a dream fight.
Very true. Yeah, Brian Bowles, especially at the time whenever they fought, Torres was on this giant win streak, and I think if they would have fought 10 times, Torres would have won a majority, maybe 6 or 7 of those. But Brian Bowles just rushed in there, and he put on just the perfect location of a punch, followed through, and got that first round knockout that, obviously people were very shocked by. No one was expecting Brian Bowles to come in there and beat Torres. So yeah, finishing him was an awesome feat.
Yeah, definitely. Miguel is not done. He is a wonderful mixed martial artist. I mean, the guy has world-class boxing, and his jiu-jitsu is even better than anything else. So if you get the guy to the ground, it's not like it's going to be easy. You have to rock him on the feet. If you get on the ground with that guy, he is most likely going to tap you. So I can't wait to see it.
Most likely going to tap you.
Manny Tapia.
Manny Tapia, whose name I horribly butchered when I said it a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, man, it's going to be great, and I just can't wait for 10 seconds of sports.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's always a fun 10 seconds. And yeah, about halfway through the podcast now, an hour through, we got Eddie Bravo on in a half an hour, so definitely get your calls in. I don't know if we're going to be taking any live listeners while we have Bravo on, and we're probably going to have Bravo on for a good majority of the end of the podcast. We have 30 minutes when he comes on, so we'll probably try and talk to him for 20, 25 minutes. We got a lot of questions for him, obviously. So yeah, I guess you have anything else to put in on UFC 149?
Not at all, man. I can't wait to get past it.
I feel the same way. Dana White said it best. You can count the amount of UFCs that have sucked on one hand. There have been 149, and you can count the shitty ones on one hand, and Dana admitted that this was a finger on that hand.
He would.
He would admit that, because, I don't know. Who knows? 10 seconds of sports. Let's do it. The Olympics start soon. I've fallen madly in love with an Australian sprinter named Michelle Janicki. Baseball's going on. No one cares. Soccer, blah, 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 blah. Penn State hammered by the NCAA.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Rightfully hammered by the NCAA. Penn State. Disgusting. So evil. But yeah, moving on, because I really don't want to focus on that story. A lot of UFC news coming out. You want to pop on the news first, or you want to talk about our beatdown of the month first? I'll leave it to Chris. I'll let him be our virtual DJ.
I'll tell you what. Let's do beatdown, then we'll do news.
Let's do the beatdown, and then we'll do the news. Let us get the beatdown of the month going.
So excited.
A segment that we bring you at the end of every month. And we give you what we believe was our beatdown. My beatdown came in Strikeforce. And I think saying that, if you are an MMA fan, you know exactly the fight that I'm talking about. Nate Marquardt. Holy shit. He knocked Tyrone Woodley out with no remorse. The thing about Marquardt that really makes me laugh, he is one of these guys who, out of the cage, smiles, bubbly, never wants to talk crap about everyone, thanks Jesus, is, very happy, is a family man, but he gets in the cage and he puts beatings on people. The Woodley fight was looking pretty close up to the 4th round. Marquardt had the first 2 rounds. Woodley won that 3rd round. But in the 4th round, Tyrone Woodley had his back against the cage. And if you haven't seen it yet, just search Marquardt Woodley GIF or something. Find a video of it. Jesus Christ, Marquardt lands 3 elbows, a couple right elbows, and a left elbow that just dazes the shit out of Woodley. He doesn't know where he is, and Marquardt just gets this belting left uppercut that knocks out Woodley and starts sending him to the campus. But before he hits the mat, you know Marquardt was going to follow that up with a right uppercut that you could just see. He put the torque of his entire body into this right uppercut that went into Tyrone Woodley's face as he was falling to the ground. And I think we all heard Tyrone Woodley's mom scream about as loud as Rashad Evans' wife as he went down. That was a beautiful knockout. Congrats to Nate Marquardt being the new Strikeforce welterweight champion and getting mine beatdown of the month.
Oh man, that was beautiful. That was actually my beatdown of the month, but when you called it, I was like, what else is a beatdown of the month? I'll tell you what. Anderson Silva taking Chael Sonnen out. I'm one of those guys that thinks that Chael didn't get his enough chance to come back from that beatdown, but he did turtle up and cover up when he got hit with those shots. Needed the body, got up, got dropped again. 3 or 4 more clean shots in the face. He was out. I was really rooting for Chael, and to see Anderson put on that kind of a performance, that is my beatdown of the month.
Yeah, Anderson. Sorry about that. I had a lump in my throat. Anderson Silva. Look, God, that I'm talking about gifts. Find the bird's eye view of the end of that fight. Chael's real ending in that was when he threw the spinning back fist, which sent him into Anderson's leg, which kind of inadvertently tripped him, put his butt on the ground, and Anderson was able to rush in, finish him. But that spinning back fist, Anderson dodges like he's in the Matrix. That was almost reminiscent of his Forrest fight when Forrest would throw that combination, and it looked like Anderson was fighting with cheat codes, dodging around him. When I say Matrix-like, I'm not exaggerating. That is the one thing that comes to mind when I see him dodging those punches. And not only dodging it, but as Forrest finishes the combo, Anderson's leaning back, boop, is able to pop him. Anderson Silva is absolutely amazing, and let the world know last night that he is unquestionably the greatest fighter of all time.
Yeah, he was beautiful with it, man. I had a lot riding on Chael out there at first round. I was like, all right, we're gonna see more of this, and then boom, that shit happened. It was over before I even realized what happened, man. I was awestruck. That was great. What a great finish.
Really great. So Nate Marquardt and Anderson Silva, our recipients of Beatdown of the Month, and we'll kill it right there. Simon Says. By how do you pronounce this band's name? Because you are
Baroa Monch.
You are this podcast pronunciation guide. Because I am a moron and can't pronounce anything foreign because I'm ignorant and white.
You can't pronounce pronunciation.
I don't take kindly to pronunciation. I'm from Florida. We in the South don't like that pronunciation shit. Yep, I just got a text back from Eddie Bravo, confirmed with him. He is ready for us to call in about 20 minutes. So we got 20 minutes. Let's go over this week in MMA news. We had a lot of news, which, you know, following MMA, when I'm a fan of sports, I'm a big fan of it. I can't just casually follow a sport. If I'm into a sport, I'm really into it. And thinking about, 2 or 3 years back, it was not like this where there were big stories coming out every week. The UFC was smaller, had less fighters in each division. They were putting on less shows. They only had 5 divisions at the time. You had, strings of 4 or 5 pay-per-views in a row where there wasn't a belt on the line because a couple guys were injured and only 2 belts were in contention. So I'm very excited to be in this new mainstream era of MMA where we have shit coming out daily. I mean, it is typical for me me to wake up, fire on mixedmartialarts.com, and see a few stories that catch my eye. One of the stories this morning when I woke up that caught my eye, Vitor Belfort and Alan Belcher announced for UFC 153 October 13th. I'm really interested to see that one.
It's about goddamn time Belfort faces a top tier middleweight. That guy has been crushing cans. He defeated Akiyama, and then he went on to face Anthony Johnson, who can't even make weight. Decent fighter, not that great. And he was scheduled to face Wanderlei, and then he got injured, and there was a lot of shit talking on Wanderlei's part, like, that guy is afraid of me, he can't handle it. And I'm just finally happy to see Belfort face a guy who I think can give him a great fight beyond Anderson Silva. I think that was the best thing that could have happened, and it's almost like a mini tournament. You got Bisping versus Stan, and you got Belfort versus help me out here.
Belfort versus Alan Belcher.
Yeah,
and
sorry, similar.
Vitor Belfort is 7-1 in his last eight fights, but he really, his fights, except for the Anderson Silva fight, none of them have really come against anyone of that big a note. Back in Cage Rage and Affliction before he joined the UFC, he beat Linlin, Martin, a couple no-names in Cage Rage, and then he did beat Franklin, Akiyama, and Johnson, but all of them have their flaws for different reasons. Johnson, didn't make weight. It was a catch weight of 197 pounds, which is ridiculous to see a catch weight of 12 pounds over the limit. Akiyama, who's lost to a lot of relevant middleweights recently, and Rich Franklin, who hasn't really been fighting frequent enough to be that relevant of a middleweight, in my opinion.
It's crazy, man. Akiyama moved from middleweight to welterweight after 3 losses in a row and 1 questionable win. And then he fights Anthony Johnson, who used to fight at welterweight and went up to light heavyweight. Like, Belfort is fighting the sliding scale of MMA. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's finally moving up, fighting a guy in Alan Belcher, who obviously, amazing fight against Husamir Palhares, escaped, almost seemed like he didn't care when he was on the ground and Palhares was reaching for his legs. He was very, very confident in his defense and proved that he should have been confident. That was awesome, the way he snaked out of it. And I forgot exactly how he beat Palhares. You want to fill that in for me?
TKO, man. He basically got out of leg locks, posted up in full guard, stacked up Palhares, rained down elbows.
In the first round, too, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Belcher has this fight. The first round is going to be close. I think Belfort's going to rock Belcher. Belcher's going to stumble around, find his footing. Second round, Belfort is going to gas, and I've got Belcher by submission. Second round.
I have a second round finish as well, but I have Vitor Belfort winning by TKO. Belcher, the fight against Husamir was really impressive, but he's, lost to a lot of people, and his chin's been a little questioned, even though it was, a while ago. Lost to Jason Day via punches, lost to Akiyama, even though that was a split decision. I don't know. I'm really interested. I think this is really a statement for Belcher much more than Belfort as far as his standing in the middleweight division. I think Belfort's pretty unquestionably a top 5 middleweight, but Belcher has one recent really impressive win, but really needs to fight an elite guy.
Here is why I'm banking on Belcher. Belcher has only lost to, I think, 3 or 4 guys in the UFC. He lost to Okami by a unanimous decision in a fight that was his octagon debut. He did really well, looked great. Then he lost to Kendall Grove by a Bravo choke in the second round. He couldn't really deal with the length of Kendall Grove, but he came back after that, and he submitted Sean Salmon by a standing guillotine, and he beat Caleb Starnes. Then he lost to Jason Day by a TKO. He was kind of huddled up on the cage and getting punched, but he was never knocked out. Then he came back and he won against Dennis Kang and Ed Herman, and then lost to Akiyama. But guess what? That loss is bullshit. Even Joe was saying that this guy, got robbed. He said that on actual, on air, on broadcast. And then he is now on a 4-fight win streak. That is very impressive against top guys. So I've got Belcher. He's too well-rounded. He's too hungry. I think Belfort is just a little too old. He can punch really well, but I think Belcher is a bad stylistic matchup for Vitor Belfort.
Yeah, actually, we just got a message from Eddie Bravo. He wanted to know if we could do it now, push it back 15 minutes. And, yeah, we're flexible. We can go over other news items. So give me 1 second, and we will call Mr. Bravo and have him on the podcast.
That's incredible. I'm nervous. That's a good thing, though.
It is. Here we go. Let us call him up. Here we go.
Hello?
Hey, Eddie, how's it going?
It's going good. Who's this?
This is Jake with the MMA Podcast. Thank you so much for coming on today, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Are we ready to start this?
Yeah. We're actually live. We are live right now.
Oh, shit. Hold on. Let me tweet it real quick. Hold on 1 second.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you, Eddie.
Yeah, for sure. For those who are unfamiliar with Mr. Bravo and may have missed the first part of the podcast, Eddie Bravo, obviously one of the more well-known jiu-jitsu practitioners. Here, I'll check out something now if you want to retweet it, Eddie. I'll throw in the live link of I am mentioning you right now. We're going a little guerrilla with the Twitter. All right, yeah, I just mentioned you and threw in a live link for the show. Yeah, Eddie, known for a lot of reasons. Known for being the first American to tap out a Gracie. Actually, is the founder of 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, which is a really quickly spreading method of jiu-jitsu focused on fighting off of your back. Really interesting, and you see a lot of guys now like Sass and other dudes who are animals off of their back, which is a really good antithesis to a lot of these wrestlers who look to take you down and put you on your back. Fighting off of your back can be a really great weapon in MMA.
Yeah.
Oh, looks like we lost Eddie. I looked at the
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry about that. I hung up on you guys accidentally.
It's all good. Yeah, I actually just tweeted out the link now. I put we're on live now with Eddie Bravo. If you just want to retweet that, it'd probably be a little bit easier. But yeah, thank you so much.
Let me do that. Let me do that right now, real quick. Hold on.
All right. But yeah, I was saying Bravo's 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu focuses on guys fighting off of their back, which a lot of guys are starting to get super dangerous at that. If you wanted to add anything to that, Chris, while Eddie retweets.
Yeah, absolutely. Eddie is fantastic with breaking down positions and little gaps that normally you would see in regular jiu-jitsu like Gracie, which is great. He kind of breaks down those gaps and gives you a fundamental to work with, whereas normally, you have these transitions and sub-positions, but he works on that with his students, which is fantastic.
I'm back.
Yeah, we were actually just talking about how you are the founder of 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, known as the first American to tap a Gracie, and how 10th Planet kind of focuses on fighting off of your back, which is a really good answer to all these wrestlers who like to slam people down and put them on your back. we wanted to ask you first, what made you want to start your own discipline of jiu-jitsu and start your 10th Planet Gym and start training people?
I just wanted to train no gi. No gi was a lot more fun than the gi. The gi was just too slow, too much stalling. It's just much more fun to roll no gi. And there was a possibility that I may do MMA, so I wanted to have my jiu-jitsu as MMA ready as possible. That's another reason. But mainly I went to the pure no gi style, mainly just because it's more fun. The gi is just too slow for me. Some people like it, fine. I don't hate it. It's just so damn slow. I was at the Mundial, the World Championships in Brazil in 2000, and watching the black belts, they're just interlocked, playing tug of war with each other's pants and collars and sleeves. And man, I was falling asleep. They had all these Brazilian drums and all sorts of noise. They were all going crazy. But me and my instructor, when my instructor looked over at me and said, "This is so boring," I'm like, wow. If a legend is telling me this is boring, there's something wrong. And to me, it's just too slow. I ordered the Mundials last year, and to watch Marcelo, not this past one, but the one before, ordered it. I got excited. I was like, oh shit, World Championships of Jiu-Jitsu. Damn, within 10 minutes, I was already on other websites and just wasn't even watching, just waiting for Marcelo. And I got so bored, I missed Marcelo. I'm not going to buy it for nothing. So, that's just how I feel. Some people love it. Some people like that slow game. It's not for me.
Yo, Eddie, this is Chris here, man, the co-host of this podcast. I just want to say it's an honor to be talking to you, sir. I've been following you for years, man. I'm subscribed to you on Twister Eddie on YouTube, and it's great to be talking to you, man.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm honored to be on the show, man. Thank you for having me.
That's fantastic. So I just want to break right into some things that I'm actually curious about. Now, let's talk some combat jiu-jitsu. Now, you said it's the in-between MMA and regular, traditional jiu-jitsu competition. Where do you see it going, man? Like, personally, where do you see this taking off to? Like, what's the height of it?
I think it could be the granddaddy of grappling. The grappling genres. You know what I mean? It's not as cool as MMA, that's for sure. It's always cooler that you could strike standing, but this is definitely a lot more hardcore than your average jiu-jitsu tournament, no gi tournament, or wrestling, or Greco-Roman, or judo. It's way more hardcore than all those because you could strike once one person hits the ground, you can start throwing bombs, and that takes it to the next level. Again, it's not as cool as MMA, but it's way better than regular grappling, that's for sure.
I agree, man. I watched that video that you posted on Mastering the System, and we got to see a little taste of combat jiu-jitsu. It was interesting, man, because it's such a great blending of the two sports. And I just wanted to ask you, is it actually sanctioned or is it an exhibition?
No, it's a sanctioned sport now. I've been talking about this for a while, but when you just talk about crazy ideas, nothing happens with them. I'm not trying to own the sport or anything. I just felt that in order for anybody to take it seriously, we're going to have to sanction it and do it right. And, so that people can see what it looks like. And I'm not, I'm not trying to own it. I want people to start their own combat jiu-jitsu tournaments and events. And
right.
I'm not trying to take any money or percentage. Go ahead and do it. And, I
know that, man.
I just did an interview with Gong Magazine. It's the biggest MMA magazine in Japan, and they're totally interested in it. They want to. There's some Asian. I don't know if it's Singapore but some Asian country is already putting on a combat jiu-jitsu tournament. There's some promoters on the East Coast. They want to get involved. They want to know the exact rules. And Rose Gracie wants to add it to the Gracie World next year. There's people that want to just your own combat jiu-jitsu league. My dream is to get Olympic bid. Why not?
Me too, man. I feel personally that it's a great idea. When I actually saw the video at first, really into it.
What if the Sheik said, "Fuck it. From now on, Abu Dhabi is gonna get punches on the ground"? Would that A, make more people excited about the tournament or less excited?
I think more. My money's on more.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. You know, the Sheik, he has that kind of power. He can just flip the switch just like that. You know, and it would be amazing. Maybe just the super fights or whatever, or the finals. The finals of combat jiu-jitsu. When you get to the finals, now you got to go punches.
It'd be amazing to see Roger Gracie, Usman Parhares in combat jiu-jitsu. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, or those little guys that are awesome. Like, how about Cobrina versus Rafael Mendez with punches on the ground?
Oh,
That would look so different. It would look so different. It wouldn't look like the previous matches.
You know, Eddie, I would never assume that you want to make money off of it. I know you're just in this for the love of the game, dude, and me too. And I got one more question regarding combat jiu-jitsu. Do you ever plan on having titles, or are you just going to have tournaments where there's tournament titles, or are you going to have actual champions?
Absolutely, everything. You know, everything the sport of grappling has: weight divisions, championships, belts, champions, contenders. Right now, it's considered an amateur sport. That's the only way we could sanction it. They would only give us three-minute rounds. I wanted 1 10-minute round, 1 15-minute round. They were like, "What the hell is that?" They're just so old school. So I took what they gave me. You know, 3-minute.
Eddie, are you working out right now?
Yeah, I was gonna ask. You're breathing pretty heavy. You fighting off your back?
No, I'm walking up a hill with my baby.
Oh, nice.
Killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah, how is being a father? You had a new baby recently. Yeah, tell us a little bit about how things have changed from not being a father to being a dad.
Well, I lived my 42 years basically with me being number one. You know what I mean? And when you have a kid, he just moves up the ladder right away to that number one spot, past your parents, past my wife, past everybody. That kid is number one, before me. So there's so much love there, and before he was born, I'm living life, and the levels of love in my system are at medium to medium high, I guess. I didn't think so back then. I thought it's on full blast. But when that kid pops out, now you're living life with those love levels just popping. They're peaking red. It's just, you're just living with so much love, and it gives you power. It's actually, it's a performance enhancer. With all that love, it just gives you so much strength. I just want to work my ass off for him and make sure that he has a comfortable life and he doesn't have to deal with his, as I just want as much happiness for him as possible. So it motivates me to get in the gym and work my ass off and not be lazy.
The HGH of life.
Yeah. You guys have kids?
Well, we're actually a couple of young bucks. I'm 22 and Chris is 26.
Okay, well, one of these days you'll know what I'm. My whole life I was like, no, it's gonna take all your freedom away. You're not gonna have. It's gonna be so hard to raise. You're gonna be struggling, and all that's true. All that is true. There's no more free time anymore. It's all about him. But you get so much more in return that just living, just having someone, it's scary too, because now I have this person that I love so much, and it's taken my love through the roof. Now, if anything happens to him, I'll be destroyed. So now I'm vulnerable. I have someone on this planet that if something happened to, it would destroy me. So it's scary, it's the most beautiful thing you can ever imagine.
You know, Eddie, I've been following the Joe Rogan podcast for a long time, and he's very open about friends having kids. And when he didn't have kids, he was very skeptical. And he had kids before you did, and then you followed suit. What was it like seeing Rogan have a kid, man? Must have been awesome.
To tell you the truth, I didn't get it. I didn't understand. He had 2 daughters before. And I think his daughter's like 3 or 4, and then he's got one that's around 2, 1.5, something like that. And, when we were Batman and Robin. We were like all over the world with the UFC, and, and when he had the kids, he it changes you, and he changed, and for the better. And I got, I'll admit, I got a little, I felt like, he wasn't paying enough attention to his friends like he was before he had the kids. And I was selfish, and I felt a little neglected. And then we weren't hanging out as much, When I had my kid, I totally understood what he went through. I'm like, I even sat him down and I apologized, and because I wanted to tell him how I felt. And now I'm like, when you have a kid, that's number one. Everything else, your friends, your family, it moves down a big slot, and that's just the way it is. And there's no turning back from it, and that's the way it should be. And me and Joe are a lot tighter, because of it.
That's awesome. Yeah. A lot of kids will typically get into what their mother or father did, and obviously you're a very well-known jiu-jitsu practitioner. I was wondering how soon you were planning on introducing him to jiu-jitsu.
Well, if there's anybody that owns jiu-jitsu school or a martial arts school, any guy that is the head of the school, when they have a son, that son's under a lot of pressure that's the head instructor's son. Now he's got to be really good, and I don't want him to feel any kind of pressure like that. But, so he gets that pressure. He can come into jiu-jitsu and just have bad experiences and get squashed, and not understand it and say, fuck this, and he could just be turned off from it and just run away. Before I introduce him to jiu-jitsu, I'm going to get his body nice and strong first, maybe a little gymnastics or breakdancing or something that turns him into just a super athlete where there's no pressure and I'm not involved in that sport. And, once he becomes nice and strong, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years of gymnastics, then when I introduce him to jiu-jitsu, he'll be a little, for his size, he'll probably be a little assassin and love it, So that's the plan.
Little killer.
But if he's not into it, that's all good. I'm going to introduce him to music as well. Start him early with piano and guitar, and hopefully he's into music or jiu-jitsu. But if he's not, he's like into architecture or whatever, that's cool too. Whatever makes him happy.
Yeah, something that kind of ties into it a little bit. Being well known in MMA, a lot of these contact sports, MMA, football, hockey, concussions are starting to pop up as a worry. If your son wanted to get into something like mixed martial arts, is it something you would let him get into, or it's a really kind of thing in the air now with concussions being on everyone's mind as far as these rough contact sports?
Well, I don't want him to get going to MMA, but if he decides to do it and he's 18, I'm not going to be that dad that disowns him and tries to stop him and just be his buzzkill, If that's his passion, he feels like that's his mission in life, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure, if he makes that decision, that while he's a child growing up, he'll have, I want him to start striking early and wrestling early, breakdance and gymnastics. And by the time he makes that decision at 18, I'm going to have to support him. And if I'm going to support him, I want to be happy that I create a little chimpanzee just in case he wants to do it,
Yeah, I'm definitely. A couple months ago, we actually had a really short interaction. Before our first episode, I was looking for an intro song for our podcast, came across Jiu-Jitsu by Smoke Serpent, and I tweeted you asking if we could use it, and you graciously, said yeah, for sure. So thank you a lot for letting us use that song as the intro to every single episode. But I wanted to know what it's like balancing the life of a jiu-jitsu teacher and being a musician, how you try and balance both of those things.
It's really hard, man. I mean, especially now with the baby, I have very little free time, if any. There's no free time. It's really, really, my time is so precious now, and my schedule is just so tight. I got to work more now just to support my family, and so it's really hard to get to the music. I'm working on it as much as I can. It's really, really hard right now, but I'm still working. We just dropped our last single. I remixed a Bass Nectar song called Time Stretch. And
yeah, I heard that. That was dope, man.
I turned it into a Smoke Serpent song. So it's actually, it's a new Smoke Serpent song with a Bass Nectar sample. And I'm probably more proud of that song than anything I've ever done, to tell you the truth.
You should be.
That song is
a great song.
That's fucking
great song.
Banging. I would be lying if I said I hadn't been blasting that the last weeks.
Really? Cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome to hear. You can go to I opened up SoundCloud account, and now I'm putting up on SoundCloud, everything, Smoke Serpent stuff, old demos, remixes that I'm doing. I'm doing a lot of remixes. I just released a Yeah Yeah Yeahs remix of Skeleton. It has nothing to do with Smoke Serpent, just remixes. I've taken, some of my all-time favorite songs and making them danceable. So I remixed Changes by Black Sabbath, turned that into just a dirty, grungy, dubstep-y type song. I'm working with a DJ named Mr. Denizen. He's helping me engineer the stuff and produce it. And I'm working with another guy named Matt Horder, who's just a genius engineer and badass musician. I'm working with different producers now and doing different projects and executive producing stuff and just to, get more product out there. I don't have that much time, so I'm executive producing remixes. I'm getting different engineers and just telling them what song I want remixed and, kind of guiding them through it, letting them put, their own input into it too, and just kind of mixing it all up. So if you go to SoundCloud.com/Eddie-Bravo, I'm going to start uploading all my old demos and all my new remixes and new Smoke Serpent cuts. So I think, that's the place. If you're on my frequency musically, you want to get on it. Oh, oops, I almost slipped and fell on my So anyway, but the song I'm most proud of is Time Stretch.
Time Stretch, yeah. I heard it on Rogan's podcast a couple weeks ago, and after it, I Googled just Smoke Serpent Bass Nectar, and the first thing that popped up was the YouTube video, and that song is banging, and that kind of keys into my next question. Both of us are listeners to the Rogan podcast, gotten wildly popular, a lot of national exposure. I was kind of curious how your appearances there have changed the popularity of things like yourself, getting recognized in public, and the amount of people who are coming in to learn 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu nationwide.
Oh, it's made a tremendous difference. I mean, I would say more people come up to me randomly and know me through the podcast than, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu alone or my music, that's for sure. People come up and say, dude, I love you on the podcast. Dude, listen to Rogan's podcast. I love it when you go on. That happens a lot. It's pretty crazy. That podcast is out of control.
Eddie, you guys changed my life, man. You, Joey, and Joe have legitimately changed my life. I listen to those podcasts I've listened since 2009, and what it taught me is that it's okay to be yourself and go out there and say what you want, man. I was reserved before, but I've been really just on that kick of like, dude, just say what you want, man. You only live once. You guys taught me that.
Yeah, originality is the key to success. Got to be original. And it's so easy to be original. You just got to learn how to be yourself. And most people don't know how to be themselves, Professionals don't know how to be themselves, So that, to me, that's the key. As long as you're yourself, it's going to come out unique, and it's no one's going to be able to touch it. So,
Yeah. Speaking of success, man, your 10th planet, you have how many schools? Is it 60 or 70, something like that? How many total?
Like in the 30s, something like that.
That's fine, man, but it's worldwide, and I wanted to talk to you about the success of the 10th planet system. You got, what is it, Alan Jabwan? The guy that fought for Titan? That guy had a great finish in Titan fighting. You have the Twister from Korean Zombie. He learned that off the internet. You have Ronda Rousey, Vinny Magalhaes coming back to the UFC, Aoki tapping fuckers out. I just wanted to know how it feels to look at your system.
Belcher as well.
Definitely.
Alan Belcher. I'm about to go out to Alan Belcher's and work with him a couple days for the Vitor fight, tighten up his twister game and his half guard game. Looking forward to that. Alan Belcher, I think I think he has a chance against Anderson. I think he has.
He's fantastic.
He has so much fury when he's in that cage. Alan Belcher don't give a shit. He goes in there and throws down. He's a real serious threat for Anderson.
I agree, man, but going back to the 10th planet, man, to see all these different people in grappling and fighting, how does it feel to look at, your baby? It's like your martial art that you took something that was good and you made it better, and what's it like to see it just blossom and grow and see the results in the cage?
Man, it's incredible. I can't believe it. Every day I remind myself of it. Every day I tell myself, how lucky and blessed I am. Can't believe it, If I got nothing else, if I achieved nothing else, I would be totally happy with what I have. You know what I mean? Of course, I have goals and all that stuff. I want 10 times to be bigger, and I want people to finally realize that there's a lot you can do off your back offensively, and to get that notion of if you're on your back, you're losing the fight. That kind of attitude, and once rubber guard is something that everyone works on. They work on the wrestling, the striking, work on their hands, work on the rubber guard. When that becomes standard, that's a goal of mine. But man, what I've achieved so far is unbelievable, and I got a beautiful baby boy, and I mean, there's nothing else I want.
Dude, it's fantastic, man. And one more thing on the thread of your 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. The in-between move and transitions that you have at 10th Planet, I actually downloaded Mastering the System a long time ago, paid good money for that, and I noticed that you have all these intricate in-between moves where in traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they don't have names for it, but you named them. Jake has a lot of those names. I think it's like the banana split, the truck, crackhead control.
The sorcerer is one of the most brutal ones.
Yeah, I mean, what was the catalyst to get you to name those in between moves? Because I think it's nothing better, man. I mean, you're coming up with names for little in between things that have to have names. If it was a system, it'd be incomplete without them. You did that, and look at your success now. You're putting names on things that didn't have names before, and you're actually creating them and advancing them.
You got to name every transition. You got to name every setup, even though if the end result was an armbar. How did you get that armbar? What did you do specifically? And how many moves were involved? And what are the names of each step? You got to name each step, each move, so that you can get on the phone and talk to your teammates or talk to your coach or your students and talk about moves and different transitions and learn from phone call. It's not coming up with all those crazy names wasn't something I did to be different. It was something I had to do to get my point across and to make teaching easier, learning easier. And, you know, some of the names sound stupid. Some are cool. Some are just okay. Some are perfect. But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what the name is. You know, you accept the name and you just name for it. And some of them came out goofy because I'm a goofy motherfucker. I'm always pulling pranks on people. I love comedy. I'm just having fun with this shit. I'm not taking it too damn seriously. Jiu-jitsu is the coolest thing you could possibly do. You can't do anything cooler than jiu-jitsu. You get to practice killing people every day you want. You know, and a tap represents a death. And you guys are all friends, you know. It really is a video game in the future, like 500 years in the future. Right now we got, you know, video games are turning into like Wii's, and you're getting involved in it. Now you can actually swing and shoot the gun, and and then soon you're going to be able to put on a helmet, and they probably already have those, and you're like in a virtual world killing people. And if you get killed, it's, you know, you don't really die, so it's cool. It's a video game, and you get to kill, but you're not really killing anybody, and then they kill you, but you're not really dead. It's really fun. You know, and then it's finally going to get to jiu-jitsu. How about you actually really are killing people, but it's a game, so no one's really dying, but I put you in a rear naked choke. If I wanted to, I can kill you. You know,
I have one last question, man.
Yeah, that definitely beats the shoot box version of just running in there and trying to kill each other. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I had a question. It really doesn't mean much, but you were on Inside MMA about 3 years ago talking to Kenny and Boss, and you said that you had a student named Joe who was just a killer and a gorilla. Was that Joe Rogan?
I don't remember. I just said Joe. Maybe I said Joe. I'm pretty sure I said it thinking that everybody knew who I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's most likely
what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of casual MMA fans, you know, just friends who will go out to the bar and stuff. I'll tell them, yeah, Rogan's a black belt in Taekwondo. He was a national champion. He's a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. I'm like, no, he's just the Fear Factor guy doing announcing. Like, no, he's a legitimate martial arts practitioner.
He's a killer.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. That I feel at my school where he's kicking the bag and GSP is going nuts. He can't believe how hard Joe Rogan's kicking the bag. You know, I mean, you have Bruce Lee. You have Bruce Lee with all these famous little video clips that all the Bruce. I'm a big Bruce Lee fanatic. Bruce Lee is the most influential person in my life, for damn sure. But, you know, you compare his famous little clips and Bruce Lee kicking a bag in his backyard, and like, oh, look at this. That kick is so amazing, and it's so fast, and he kicks the bag, and it's in black and white. None of those video clips that Bruce Lee has even comes close to Joe Rogan destroying a bag, GSP, the greatest martial artist ever, arguably, going nuts, cursing, going, oh, my God, fuck, that was fucking... He's running to grab his phone so that he can video it because no one's going to believe him. That's a video that exists. You know what I mean? That's real shit. That's a crazy video. Come on, that's Joe Rogan teaching GSP how to kick. And it wasn't like GSP was just standing there going, okay, I see what you're doing. He kind of turning the hip, and okay, that's nice. And then he's kicking it. That would be nothing. GSP's reaction is what made that video. He's going nuts. He can't fucking believe it. You know, Bruce Lee doesn't have a video like that. It's that powerful. He doesn't have a video where he's wowing people with his kicks. And you're seeing the way he's hitting that bag. It's not just the camera angle. If you're standing there, he murders fucking bags. He murders, and you know, we grew up in jiu-jitsu at the Machados, and every jiu-jitsu school is filled with guys that come from the karate background with black belts. Some have schools. Like I would say a good third of jiu-jitsu students come from a traditional martial arts background. And there was a bag, a kicking bag set up at Jean-Jacques, just sitting there. No one really practiced kickboxing then because of the bag. People would every now and then be a dude wailing on it. And it was so hysterical when I would asked someone who was a black belt in the school, just one guy in particular, his name was Dave. I said, he owned a karate school, and he's using it with jiu-jitsu, which is a smart thing. And I asked him, I go, let me see your turning sidekick, kick that bag. And he'd get in stance, stretch out just for like 2 seconds, and then he'd do a turning sidekick, hit the bag. And then Joe was right there, I go, okay, Joe, you do it now. And then Joe would do it, and nobody wanted to kick the bag no more. Once they see Joe kick the bag, nobody wants to kick it anymore. They won't even try it again.
Yeah, man. When Joe kicks that bag, dude, it makes that sound. It makes that sound where like you hear that cha-ching, and it's the same sound you make when you're up on a swing and you're way high up and it has slack and you just come falling back down. Cha-ching.
There was this time, and I've been wanting to videotape it forever. Actually, I did videotape it once back in 2001. I mean, I've known Joe can murder bags for 12, 13 years. And I tried to explain to people, but nobody would believe it. And I videotaped, back in 2001, and I showed it to Rico Rodriguez. He was a friend of mine. I go, look, the turn-in sidekick has a place in MMA. And this is back when, you don't throw turn-in sidekicks, but rare, like you see one every 2 years. And I was trying to convince Rico Rodriguez of it, but it was a bad camera angle. He wasn't that impressed, although Rico did start throwing turn-in sidekicks. I don't know if you remember or follow him, but he would throw them. But I don't know if he was influenced by Joe. But anyways, so way back then, me and Joe drop off this car to get a car stereo. And we got a couple hours because we're walking around, we get something to eat. Then we see a martial arts school across the street. It was run by five Middle Eastern brothers that did a combination of karate and kung fu and all and savate and even that Sanchu stuff. And we walked in, and I had it all planned out. I wanted to get the guy kicking the bag and then have Joe kick the bag and look at the guy's face. That's what I wanted to do. So I go in. I love doing that. I've done that several times. I get kicking the bag, because if Joe kicks the bag first, no one's going to want to kick the bag. I want to see them kick it first. So I walk into school, pretending like we're interested in joining, and I said, can you show me what kind of kicks you teach here? Do you guys teach linear kicks or more circular kicks, more like kung fu? And I was like trying to get the kicks out of him. He goes, well, I'll show you. So he starts stretching out, ready to give us a demonstration of what kicks we're going to learn there. He's stretching out, and while he's stretching, he looks over at Joe, and Joe's kind of shadow boxing a little bit, and the guy goes, yeah, have you ever trained? Have you strike? And then Joe doesn't want to lie. He goes, yeah, I did, I used to teach Taekwondo. And I go, oh, really? He goes, let me see what you got. Why don't you hit the bag? And Joe said, okay. And he went first. So he just destroyed the bag. That guy, you know what he said? I swear to God, I'll never forget this. He said, I'm not going to sit here and have a kicking competition with you guys. Like, he figured it out. He goes, if I get hurt trying to impress you with kicks, that's going to affect my livelihood. He backed out of that shit. He would not kick the bag. He knew he was set up. Like, he'd never, 1,000,000%, he'd never seen anybody kick a bag like that before. And people just don't believe it until they see it. I've never seen anybody kick a bag like Joe. I've been around a lot of martial artists. I've never seen anybody.
All those videos.
Neither has a GSP. GSP's never seen anybody kick a bag like that, and he's a legit black belt. And it's not just a turning sidekick. Everything Joe throws has incredible power. Everything. Like his jab, his hook, his hands. He's got giant hands, and I've witnessed this personally. And cause, he's got cash. He takes private lessons with the best motherfuckers out there. And I always want to see their reaction once they start holding mitts for him. Once people start holding mitts for Joe, it's just not his turning sidekick. His hands are tremendously heavy. They always look. He'll just fucking jack those mitts up, and then the guy looks over at me, and I make eye contact. I'm like, so what do you think? They always go, holy shit, this guy could fight pro right now. They're always blown away. Everyone, even Delagrati. Delagrati was holding mitts for Joe, and he said he'd never hit anybody. He's never had anybody that size hit as hard as Joe.
I believe that, man. I believe
everything,
that.
His axe kicks, his Jackie Chan flippy kicks, his uppercut, his everything he throws, his push kick, everything. He's got what it is he's got something going on in the hip area. He just knows how to throw his hips harder and stronger than most people, and he's got big, heavy hands. You know, it's and you know his shoulders are giant. He really is a gorilla. You know,
he is, man.
If he wanted to do, like, if someone was going to give him $100 million and he said, "Fuck it, I'll take the fight," and he got to train 6 months, he would destroy some dudes at 170. He would murder them. He's very hard to take down. His jiu-jitsu is sick. You're going to take him down, you're going to get choked. He's really good at jiu-jitsu, and he's got heavy fucking hands. And I'm sure he's got his jaw is big. I'm sure he could take some damage. Joe can fuck up a lot of those dudes at 170 if you got in shape. You know what I mean? If you got his weakness is his cardio. He's never been able to really lick that cardio thing. He backs it out a lot. But
it's crazy, man.
If he fixed that cardio problem right now today, even though he's like 44, he would fuck dudes out. Everybody that holds him at firm, their jaws drop. It's crazy, and I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that. It's the truth.
I believe it, man.
You see that back? Yeah, it's crazy.
Dude,
it's crazy.
GSP was freaking out when he saw him kick it.
GSP legitimately went, "Oh my God, Joe, what are you doing? How did you do that?"
Okay, hold on. Let me go get my video camera. No one's gonna fucking believe me. Nobody's gonna fucking believe me. I go to Canada, they're gonna think he bullshit.
Holy
my God.
Joe, you kick
Dude,
so
by
hard.
the way, I'm terrible at accents. I shouldn't have done that.
No, I'm talking about UFC level fighters. There are a lot of dynamite jiu-jitsu players now in MMA. Do any current fighters stand out to you now? You know, I saw you were talking about Paul Sass a lot after his most recent fight against Jacob Volkman, where he pulled out that nutty triangle armbar.
Yeah, Vinny Margolis has been around the block a couple times, so that's no shocker. To me, Vinny's got, top 3 best jiu-jitsu in the UFC. If not the best, he might be the best. I don't know. I'd say top 3, Vinny Margolis. And then, you got George Sotiropoulos in there. His jiu-jitsu is insane. And then, the new guys, Paul Sass and Weidman. Both of those guys have some serious jits. But my personal favorite between Weidman and Paul Sass, I like Paul Sass better. We haven't seen Weidman on his back. We haven't. Maybe we have, but I don't remember. But we know that Paul Sass, we put him in the worst spot on his back. You're in danger. You know what I mean? He can fight a fighter that won the K1 title in kickboxing and won an Olympic gold medal in wrestling, and it won't matter to Paul Sass. It won't even matter because he's not going to stand with them. He's going to pull guard, and he's not going to wrestle with them. He's just going to pull guard. So he takes all that advantage away from fighters. Meanwhile, he's working on his striking and his wrestling, so eventually he's going to have to stand and he's going to have to strike. But, man, he's got the art of guard pulling so deep. It's not just butt-flopping and then you're on your ass. You got to take a real deep shot, make the guy sprawl, and then right at that perfect time, you sit back and pull guard, and he falls right into your guard. And it really is an art. And Paul Sass should put out a DVD on what the hell he's doing and what the hell he's thinking, because no one's been able to stop it so far. And you know what? People are going to stop it. There's going to be guys, I'm sure, that trained against his guard pull, and he's not going to be able to pull guard. Every time he pulls guard, they just back out and they refuse to go on the ground. He's going to run into some guys like that for sure. And he's going to have to end up standing, and he's going to have to use his wrestling eventually. But so far, he just takes a good shot and sprawls at the perfect time as the guy sprawls, and his guard is so dangerous, and he's not even using rubber guard, and his guard's so damn dangerous, man. Once he discovers the power of the rubber guard, he's going to be, even more dangerous. But right now, he doesn't even need the rubber guard.
Definitely.
His guard is awesome enough as it is.
Eddie, we've got exactly 90 seconds left. I've got one last question for you. I ask all of our guests. Sorry to, push this in last minute, but what is your favorite ice cream? I myself am a cannabis connoisseur, and I enjoy my ice cream. What flavors does Eddie Bravo like?
Haagen-Dazs chocolate peanut butter.
Yeah.
Peanut butter.
Never tried that, but it sounds absolutely goddamn crazy. But, we would love to talk as long as possible, but we actually only have a minute left. before we have to go off the air. Thank you so much for coming on. Everyone follow at Eddie Bravo on Twitter. You have any shout-outs before we let you go?
Yeah, all my techniques I put online on a show called Mastering the System. Go to YouTube, go to Mastering the System. It's all the techniques I teach at my home school. I put them up on the internet. The YouTube version doesn't have the techniques. It just has all the crazy videos around it because it's a show. It's not just techniques. But $4.99 a month. You go to my website, 10thplanetjj.com. You have access to my entire system. $4.99 a month. I mean, you can't beat that.
It's well worth it, man. It's great technique from the master.
And we will also link that up on the MMA podcast, too, if you want to check that out. Eddie, thank you so much for coming on. We enjoyed this conversation very thoroughly.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a great day, man.
Bye, Eddie.
You too, man. Bye.
And that was Eddie Bravo coming on, talking life, talking his son he recently had. That was an awesome podcast. Don't know if we have time to say what we learned. I just learned Eddie Bravo is a cool motherfucker. That was great.
I love that guy.
That was an awesome podcast. And we will see you... Oh, God, that's loud. We will see you next Wednesday at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Thank you for tuning in. Obviously, visit the MMApodcast.com. See who we're going to have on next week.
Jake.
Catch the latest news.
We gone.
We gone.